We are back with another review now. We are doing the second part of the movie The Joker. We end up our first part of analyzing the spiritual perspective on the film by saying that there's a possibility that everything that we have seen in this film was all taking place in Arthur's mind, in the Joker's mind. And this will open the door for a very interesting conversation about what it would mean for us to have this conversation with this character. If he's the narrator, the voice behind the story of the events that we're seeing, what is he trying to convey? What is he saying to us as we're watching this production? If this possibility is open, that would mean that the Joker is almost like playing with our minds, because as we are diving into his thoughts, we are literally being submerged into his madness. We are wrestling with his insanity, and a person like him, which is a villain, will be manipulating us into certain things that we don't even know is tricking us into his worldview, into his state of mind. And I don't claim that the producers, directors, or the writers of the film intended this. I'm just opening the conversation, because if the film sets at the end and is hinted at throughout the film that this is all taking place in his mind, this will be the implications and the conclusions we can derive. The joke is on us. The Joker is playing with us. And there's three things that happen if this is the case. By us seeing the world, the events of his life through his perspective, the Joker is shifting sympathy for him while he's doing all these deeds. And the movie is very successful in doing that, because he's portrayed as a victim. He's a result of his circumstances. He's fighting against the trend and the pressures that are coming against him, and he's being shaped by things that are happening to him that he has no control over. So he's shifting sympathy towards him until suddenly we can empathize with this villain, with this character. And this is very powerful, because the Joker is telling us in the story that he has no control over what he's doing. We see him throughout the movie in different scenes where he's being beaten down by some kids, but yet he feels no harm towards them. He dances to the beat of a music that says, even when life keeps beating you down, you keep a good attitude. You make your tragedy a comedy, and that's what he does. He loves performing in front of kids, but that was taken away from him when he loses his job. He tried to do stand-up comedy, but the world ridiculed him and made fun of him and tried to take that dream away from his life. We see him that he doesn't want to harm the caretaker of Bruce Wayne, because he sees this kid as his half-brother, his little half-brother. So he doesn't want to have that impression on him. Continually, he's seen as somebody who has a good heart, and all he wants is to be loved. He's seeking for a father figure. He takes care of his mother. He does good deeds. And he didn't even know he existed throughout most of his life, he says in his own words, until he performs these evil deeds, and that made him become alive. So he gains sympathy by telling us life and the events that occurred to him from his perspective. And even when he commits deeds that are evil, it's all because he lost his medication and he's unable to feel remorse for what he has done. So the Joker is playing a trick with us, because he's put in a scenario where we can see him as innocent. We will let him have his fun, and we will let him do the things that he's doing, because his mom told him from a very young age, your purpose in life is to bring laughter and joy to the world. So he sees his very life in a way that is a result or a victim of circumstances. This is very Joker-like. He's winning us over, and he's shifting sympathy towards him. And if you saw the movie, I don't know if you felt that way. If you did, then the joke is on us. The Joker is playing. He's tricking us. He's tricking our thoughts, and we are diving into his insanity. The second thing we can say is that we accept his philosophy of life. Once he wins our sympathy, the Joker having this conversation with us through his perspective as we are diving into his thoughts, he's making us accept what he believes. He's making us accept what he feels. And that's a very powerful transition in the movie. He has gone beyond logic. He has gone beyond reasoning, and in the film it does a very good job in showing us how for certain people like the Joker, lies are as important as truth. The line is so blurred and so intertwined and so confusing, there comes a point that it doesn't matter anymore what happened or didn't happen. Reality and fiction has become one and the same, and we see cleverly over and over again, did he really attempt to buy a gun from his co-worker, or did the co-worker gave him the gun and later on make him lose his job? It's a question that we are wrestling with in the movie. The movie suggests, did he really attempted or actually stole the sign that he was supposed to use for his job, or did kids took the sign from him and beat him with it? Did he really went to see Thomas Wayne, or was all that imagined in his head? There's different things, like when the cops confront him and ask him, do you really have that condition or uncontrollable laughter, or that's part of your act? And there comes a moment that we don't know which one is what, because he pictured in his head things like being in the Murray show as part of the audience, and Murray talking to him. He pictured in his head his mother talking to a social worker about him, and all this is in his imagination, in his delusions. He pictured in his head having a relationship with the neighbor, even though he never actually talked to her. And in his head, he did a successful job in stand-up comedy, and we know that wasn't the case when Murray ridiculed him in the show. So, but we understand that he's moving beyond reasoning. It doesn't matter anymore what happened. What is important is how you feel. What is fueling him, his anger, his frustration, and his pain. And we feel his pain. We understand how somebody that is experiencing life the way he's embracing and the way he's enduring it, it doesn't matter anymore what is truth. The only thing that matters is how you feel. So if the Joker is shifting sympathy towards him, and he's diving us into his thoughts and his insanity, now we accept his philosophy of life. For him, the only outlook towards existence is this dark humor, is insanity and madness with a twist of humor. And we accept it and we understand it because for him, as he said in his own words, I don't know if you notice this in the film, every time he does horrible acts, immediately after that, he begins to dance. For him, for the Joker, he's performing. He's living life, and he's doing like an artwork, and it should be admired and celebrated. And as we are celebrating watching the movie, and he shifts the sympathy towards him, and now we accept him for who he is, we almost are clapping and rooting for him to become this character. And we are unknowingly being tricked into accepting the Joker's philosophy of life. And lastly, this joke that he's playing on us is actually getting us to endorse this mentality of eroding beliefs, deconstructing values, having an outlook of anarchy. In his world, everyone should wear the mask of the Joker. Everyone should celebrate for different reasons, because he doesn't believe in anything. He only deconstruct those who do, those who believe in something. And for whatever reasons, Joker believes that insanity, craziness, madness is the only way to go in this world. And that's a very interesting perspective that is open to debate or to argue or to have this conversation, all because at the end of the film it shows as if Joker is actually the narrator behind the movie that we are watching. And this last point about him playing with our minds and we becoming a part of the dysfunction of the Joker's philosophy leads to an interesting conversation. There's 6 people in the film that you see that are very important to him. The only 6 people that he has actually constant interaction and relationship with. And these 6 people can be divided into 3 different groups. And I believe this shows us the way he looks at life. The first 2 we can say is Murray and Thomas Wayne, which is the father figure. This represents everything that he wished to become, his broken aspirations and dreams in life, what he can never attain. A comedian and a person of influence. The second group of people is his mother and the neighbor he has a relationship with in his head. This represents the people that accept him for who he is, true love. And true love in the Joker's mind only exists in insanity, for his mom was crazy and this neighbor was a product of the delusions of his mind. It was not grounded in reality. And if you notice, and I will make this point with the last group, which are the 2 social workers, notice that anything that is closer to reality, he kills. Because he kills his mother, which is the closest one, the one that he actually has interaction with, but he lets go of the neighbor. He doesn't kill the neighbor, which all the relationship was in his head. It was all an illusion. He kills Murray, which is the one that actually gives him an opportunity to perform a dream that he can actually become in reality, yet he lets go of Thomas Wayne, which, by the way, he could have this relationship with Thomas Wayne all in his head. He might never even actually talk to him. And lastly, he kills one of the social workers, the one that is actually talking to him, trying to help him. This represents the system. The 2 social workers will represent the system of the world that is supposedly trying to help him. And through these 6 characters, we see a perspective of how the Joker sees the world. He sees the aspirations that he can never have, true love that doesn't exist but only in insanity, and lastly, a system that is broken and doesn't really understand him. So if we are watching the movie from one of these 3 perspectives, one of these 3 different groups of people, we can identify with the way the Joker sees us, the way he perceives us. For example, the first group we will say is if we are detached, like Thomas Wayne and Murray, and just look down at the Joker. He's just a crazy person. There's nothing to be understood. He's just a manipulator and a liar. Yeah, there's nothing to see in insanity. We are the people in his world that fuel his anger. We are the people that he seeks to destroy, and he rejoices over our death. If we are like the social worker, the last group, there are the people that are trying to analytically understand him, trying to comprehend his motives, trying to see what is driving him to behave this way. If we watch the movie from this perspective, trying to understand why the Joker became the way he did, he turned out to be a murderer. In his world, we don't understand him. What does he say to the social worker? You never listen. You're only doing a job. You don't understand my pain. You don't understand who I am. I'm just performing, and you don't see my art. You don't admire my art. And he actually looks at people like that with a perception of you are part of the problem. You are the system that controls you. You represent order, structure, the very things that he's trying to destroy. And lastly, if we watch the movie sympathetically, trying to relate or care for the Joker. I don't know if you watched the film and you felt sorry for him, and then you feel bad because you don't know if you're supposed to feel sorry for him. If we are like that, we are like the girl he has a relationship in his head, or his mother in his world. Joker sees us as crazy as him. We are part of his world of insane madness with a twist of humor, and he has no relationship with us. He doesn't relate to us. He believes that kind of love, true love, is madness, and it doesn't exist in the real world. So Joker is a very sinister character who is actually playing a trick with us, having this conversation with us and making us shift sympathy towards him, accepting his worldview, and lastly playing a joke. And he's letting us know how he views us, how he sees us. And that's why at the end he laughs, not because of a condition, but because of his true self. He says in the movie, this condition that everybody thinks I have is actually my true persona. And that's where he actually laughs for real, because he did not laugh because he was nervous or because something was done to him or because it didn't reflect his true feeling. He laughs because he's thinking, the way he's manipulating people, the way throughout the film he's twisting our minds, he's shifting sympathy, tricking us into accepting his philosophy of life. And that is a joke that we don't get, and that's what actually makes him laugh with his true laughter, which is sinister, is dark, and is perverse. And this is the way that the movie sheds light in the fact that Joker, throughout the whole film, has been playing with us. And if this is the case, and then the movie becomes even more interesting and powerful, because it shows us that true evil cannot be understood, because, like the movie Batman says, some men just want to see the world burn and they don't need a reason for it. So what do you think about this analysis of the Joker? Do you believe that the Joker is playing with us and he's showing us a glimpse into the way he sees the world? Do you believe that everything was in his head and he's actually perverting our thoughts for us to celebrate the Joker like in the movie? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts below, and we'll be back with another spiritual review.